really the key to this whole natural monopoly is that we have a certain number of customers. So let's just say we're looking at cable TV or power or something like that, because those are typical in the natural monopoly, natural gas, and so those types of industries are natural monopolies. And we have this Q, and Q would just be the number of customers. Okay, so that's all that is. Okay, Q is, in this case, is equal to the number of customers. So in this market, what's happening is that we have measured price here. We're also going to measure the average cost, marginal cost. We'll put all that on this axis, and on this axis we have Q, and because it's a monopoly, we know that big Q is equal to little q. In other words, the firm is the industry. So we have all that set up. And then what's different about a natural monopoly is that the average cost curve is going to look like this. If there's, for instance, let's just say there's 50,000 customers in this area. And so that would be your Q. And then so if there's an average cost curve kind of looks like this, right? And then it starts going up. So that would be your average cost curve. Now, what makes this different than the other average cost curves is that we're almost beyond the industry output, right? So here's the number of customers, and the company's still getting more and more efficient. In other words, the bigger they get, the more they grow, the lower their average costs are. So in other words, they can put the product out there because the average cost curve gives you a couple kind of big clues as to what price the company can charge. So that in this case, so the average costs are falling. That means the company's price can fall as the company gets bigger. So the bigger the company, the lower the price is. And that sounds great, right? So the average consumer likes that because they'd be better off if there's one big company. If there were a bunch of little companies, then their average cost curves might look something like this, right? Where this would be an average cost curve. So the lowest the company can charge, might be for a small company, might be, let's say, this much, all right, way up here, where if the industry is just dominated by one company, then the price would be this much. Okay, so let's just say that this would be cable TV, and the lowest they could charge is $100 if there was one small company. But because there's so many companies, if there's just one big company, they could charge $25. So what happens is that the bigger the company, the lower their costs, and when their costs are low, that allows a company to charge a lower price, right? Because price is different from cost. We always say, oh, this thing cost me this much, but this is cost this much. But it's really the price of this. The price is how much you pay, the cost is how much the business pays to get that product to you. So typically, they're different. All right, so any questions so far? So the whole point of this so far is just to say that we have these economies of scale, and the economies of scale mean that the bigger the company is, the more efficient they're going to be. Okay? So that's what we kind of started on last time, but I didn't put the graph up. But the point being is that the graph's going to look a little bit different than the other monopoly graph. So I'm going to draw that now. Okay? You guys ready for that? So here's what happens. Is go a few more. You have what's called an unregulated natural monopoly. An unregulated natural monopoly is the ones that would be one that just maximizes profit. That's all they do. So they're a typical monopoly. The government's not involved with it. So all they're doing is they're setting their own prices, and they're going to set their prices based on where they can maximize profit. And all companies, when they maximize profit, they go to the point where MR equals MC. They go down to the quantity, up to the demand curve, and on the left, and we're good. Okay, so that's the starting point. But let me put this one graph up here, and we're going to do all the different conditions, all the different scenarios on this one graph. sure I draw it the right way. And you have this PowerPoint slide, you pick that up on my webpage, but I also, I'll email you this here. This is just the natural monopoly one, and I'll send you that a little bit. Hey, bless you. That's neat. Alright, so we have, that's great. It's not so bad. Alright, here's your demand curve. That would be the demand curve for the industry. Of course, the marginal revenue line is going to look like this, about halfway, right, which is close enough. So we have demand, the marginal revenue, over the average cost curve is going to continue to get lower. Yeah, I know it's like an allergy season. Here's average cost would be like that, and maybe not. Yeah, I just want to draw it right. So let's do it. So we're minimal point would be, minimum point for the average cost curve would be somewhere up here. And then the marginal cost curve will kind of come in and swoop through here. That's for MC. Okay. So that's what the graph looks like. So it's very typical, right? It's very similar to what the other ones that we had. The other ones we had, the only difference is we have your typical monopoly. We have MR equals MC. We find that spot where this is MC. The only difference here was this, that the average cost would intersect like here. On this one, the average cost is intersecting like out here. So that's the difference, right? So that in other words, the costs are minimized here with a typical monopoly, but with this natural monopoly, it is somewhere out here. So this is the the one we were looking at before. So it's not that different. Okay, so pricing scenarios. There are 3 different pricing options. There are 3 different players in this game. There is the business, and the business wants to maximize profit. There's the consumer, and the consumer wants to minimize the price, want the price as low as possible. And then there's the government, who's trying to find this sort of happy solution between the two, where they make sure the citizens are happy, and there might even be some taxes in there. But the government, what they are doing is they're just trying to find a good solution. So we have 3 pricing options. So number 1 would be the unregulated monopoly, which is basically the business. So option number 1 is the business's option. This is their choice. So the business choice is they're going to maximize profit, right? I mean, if they're a business, they want to maximize profit. So they will set prices where MR equals MC. Okay, that's what anyone who wants to maximize profit is going to go up MR equals MC. So we go to MR equals MC, which is right here. So everybody see that. So the business's profit, the business will maximize profit when the marginal revenue is equal to the marginal cost. Beyond that point, they'll start losing profit because the cost of that next unit is greater than the revenue that will be brought in. So they will maximize their profit right here at this quantity. I'm going to call that well, let's be consistent. I'll call that the monopoly's price and the monopoly's quantity. So here's the monopoly quantity right here. How do I find the price? Okay, so I'm here, and then what do I do from there? If I go this way, what happens? Is that the price?
Go up to average cost.
How do I find the price?
Go up to average cost.
If I go up to average cost, and that's going to be my average cost of the quantity. And then I'm going to go to the demand curve, and that gives me my price. Always find price on the demand curve. Okay, the price is always going to be located on the demand curve. So here at this quantity, it's supposed to be a straight line. At this quantity, the price will be whatever this amount is on the demand curve. So I go here, I go left, my price, AC and MC are all measured here. Here's my quantity, and this is going to be the price the monopolist will charge. Everybody see that?
And the profit area is the box, right?
The profit would be from here.
From the AC over there.
Yes, so I go like that would be a profit box right there. I'm going to kind of get that out of there for a second because it's going to be kind of a messy graph anyway. Is everybody okay with that? That's what MR equals MC, go down to get the quantity, go up to get the price, and that gives you all the information you need. Okay, so here's the problem, right? This is a great solution and a great price for the business because they can do this whenever they want. They're always going to be able to set the price that maximizes their profits. So there's no government intervention and all that works out. The problem with this is what? Do you see a problem? Remember, there's a reason why monopolies are considered to be bad is because of this problem. So what's the problem?
They're doing incentives to keep their prices lower. They don't have an incentive to keep their prices lower, like they'll charge.
Okay. And who wins, who loses? Monopoly. The monopoly wins, right? The consumer loses. And there's also this big area right here. And what would this represent, like right here? That area there.
Dead weight loss.
Dead weight loss. Okay, so the fact of the matter is that the big problem here is that there is a huge dead weight loss. This whole area here would represent a dead weight loss. And that means that the company would be inefficient because when one of the determinants of being inefficient, would be that if there's a dead weight loss, they're efficient. So that's number one. So we know that they're inefficient because there's a dead weight loss. And so the problem with the dead weight loss is there's a bunch of people who love to get, in this case, cable TV, and they'd love to pay a certain amount of money that would actually make the company a profit, but the company doesn't want to lower the price to those people because they would have to lower the price to everybody, and when they lower the price to everybody, they lose profit. So in this case, there's this big dead weight loss, and then the company has to find ways to extract the dead weight loss. In other words, offer these incentive packages or do something to get those customers in and run a margin. So that's option number one, pricing option number one. I think there's a, if you look here, this is a graph of it, and you look here on this graph, this is the marginal cost. Here's your marginal revenue, here's your marginal cost. They go up to the demand curve, go left. And then that's the price that the unregulated monopoly would charge. They call it pricing option one. Okay? Any questions? Anything? Okay. So that obviously is a winning situation for the business, but there's a huge dead weight loss. And that's the big problem. And you can check out all this stuff. Okay. The dead weight loss is not a good thing. Okay. Option number two is the one that the consumer would like, right? So in this option, this would be the consumer's choice. And the consumer would like to just be where supply and demand are equal, right? That's marginal cost curve is typically looked at as being your supply curve, at least in a perfectly competitive market, right? Your marginal cost curve and your supply curve are synonymous. And then this is your demand curve, so when supply and demand intersect, would be right here. So where demand equals marginal cost, that would be the key point. So demand equals marginal cost right here. And go from there, go down, and you're going to get the quantity that the consumer would like to see. And then you got the price that the consumer would like. So this is the consumer's price. So as expected, right, the monopoly would produce less and charge a higher price than if the market was competitive. The price would be lower and there would be more produced. Okay, so that's just consistent with what we did before. It's consistent when we were doing the consumer and producer surplus. It's so a monopoly is going to charge a higher price than perfect competition. So even if you make a mistake, right? So even if you're like this and you go, okay, well, MR equals MC right here, and I'm going to go over this direction to find the price. Then you should know right away that if your monopoly's price is below your perfect competition price, you know you made a mistake. So check your answer and just make sure that your monopoly price is always higher than your competitive price. In this case, everything's cool, right? The market's been more efficient because now there is no deadweight loss, so that's a good thing. There's no deadweight loss. And but there is a problem. Can anybody see what the problem would be here? It's kind of a tough thing to see on the graph, yeah.
Is it below the profit?
Yeah, good catch. Good catch. So the price is here, and the average cost is here. So the price is actually lower than the average cost. And so we're here, like that. So this area here would represent a loss. All that would be a loss. In this example then, right, or with the consumer's choice, there is a loss for the business. So how could this possibly happen? Well, it actually does happen. And what happens is the government would have to subsidize the business. In other words, we're going to have to give them some money in order to be able to operate and keep prices this low. So if the government gives this business money, then the business will get that additional amount here, and then that helps the consumer. So when does that happen? Well, a good example would be like a transit authority. Like you guys have gone to different cities, right? And you know, you ever gone to a city that has like a big transit authority? In other words, like the public transportation. MBTA. Yeah, and that's the T. The T's in Boston, right? And Atlanta, what do they call it? What do they call anybody ever been taking any public transportation in Atlanta? No. Okay, MARTA. Okay, how about New York? Yeah. Subway. Right? And on the other places that you've gone to, in San Francisco, it's a trolley, and you go to all these different cities and they have this public transportation. And that public transportation is usually not very expensive. So you can go from one end of the city to the other for, let's say, I haven't been in a while, but I was just in New York this year. It was like, we went a long ways. It was like, I think it was like $2 for the subway to go from, you know, you can go pretty much wherever you want to. That's not bad, right? And then, like in Boston, you can go from 40 miles for like $1. And so what happens in that case, you guys, is that the city is actually, they're subsidizing these outside companies to come in and run their transit authorities. So it's a subsidy, right? Amtrak is subsidized. There's like I think they get like $8 billion a year from the federal government. And anybody ever take Amtrak? You kind of wonder where your $8 billion are going? Because it doesn't seem like the most efficient. I mean, I took Amtrak one time from Connecticut to Florida. It was probably the longest day of my life. It's like me and my dad wanted to like do the let's do the train thing, and so we did it. It was like, we stopped everywhere. Very, very, very inefficient, but it was cheap. Okay, and it's cheap because the government subsidizes it. Okay, so around. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so the good thing about this, no deadweight loss. The bad thing about this is that they lose money and the government has to step in and subsidize. So pricing option number 2 is what happens with the government, is demand equals marginal cost. That's consumer's choice because prices are low. The good thing is that prices are low. The bad thing is that we need government to step in and subsidize. Pricing option number 3 is the one that's most used, and that's the government's choice. And the government's choice is to set prices. So number 3, the government choice, and they will set prices where the price or the demand is equal to the average cost, which would be right here. So D equals AC. And that's a good thing right there. Okay, so that because if the prices are down here where the demand curve intersects the marginal cost curve, then the prices are still pretty low. So that's the price, I'll just say P equals AC. That's an AC here. And there's my deadweight loss. See how little it is? Right? So the deadweight, there's still a deadweight loss, but it's a tiny deadweight loss compared to this really big deadweight loss. There's just a little one. So it's somewhat inefficient, but it's not too bad. And the prices are still low, so this is a win-win situation. So what happens in this case is it's a regulated market. The government steps in and they regulate the price. They're the ones who set the prices. We actually have that at Winthrop. If we want to raise tuition at Winthrop, we actually have to ask permission from the government. Okay, but they always say yes, so that's good, right? No, they do always say yes for some reason, but they probably shouldn't. Yes?
So, where D equals MC for number 2, is that an inefficiency or that's a good thing?
It's not inefficient because there's no deadweight loss. I mean, there's 2 conditions for inefficiency. One, you look at your minimum point for the average cost curve, right? So is the company operating the minimum point of the average cost curve? And they are not, but it's still, they actually couldn't because the market doesn't support that. So the other is there a deadweight loss? So if you look at condition number 2 for inefficiency, it's you're not operating or producing at the minimum point of AC. So if you have these 2 conditions, then it's inefficient. But you can't really, I wouldn't look at that D equals MC intersection and say that's inefficient. There's no deadweight loss. They can't be any more efficient than that. So that's about as good as it gets. The problem is just that the government has to subsidize because business is losing money. That's fine. And on the third one, the problem is a little bit smaller. Okay, there's a little deadweight loss. Okay, but here's the problem, guys. And you guys probably are living this problem. Here's the deal, right? What is the incentive for the business to keep their costs low? What would happen if this average cost curve just goes up like that? What does the company do? They just raise their prices. That's all they do. So if their costs go up, then the price goes up. Winthrop University has had this issue where the costs have risen, and so what they do is they just pass it on to their customers. And that's what happens all the time with natural monopolies. Okay, not that Winthrop's a natural monopoly, because they're not, but they're a government-regulated business, right? Because we're a government school, state school. And whenever there is a natural monopoly that's where the price of it is set by the government, then the company can just go in and make their claim and say, look, you guys got to let us raise our prices. Why? Because our costs have gone up. Why? And then say, because oil prices have gone up. Oh yeah, they have. Right? Oil prices did go up, and that was the reason that a lot of companies started to raise their prices, right? Because of electric bills. But did they lower the prices when oil prices went back down? No. So that's what I'm saying here is that there is no incentive, there's no incentive at all for them to keep these costs down. And that's why if you guys look, it's mind-boggling to me, and you guys can look sometime and look it up yourself, that you can look at a nonprofit organization, and the CEO of a nonprofit will make $10 million a year. You'd be like, they're a nonprofit, how do you make that? But there's no incentive for their cost to go down. It's amazing to me that these guys can do whatever they want in terms of raising up their costs. They have perks, they have, the great facilities, they have everything, and all that is it's passed on to the customer. Do you see the problem with that? And it's not, look, if the problem is nobody can go and compete against them in this case. So there's nothing stopping this company from just being able to basically ask for more money and charge them. Because we still need power, we still need gas, we still need cable, so they get to do kind of what they want. So it gives them an edge, right? So that's the bad thing about it. But the good thing is that they're pretty efficient and they do a nice job. Like, we had the Duke Power person here last week speaking, and she was talking about how they're trying to be more and more efficient at Duke Power. If that's the case, then this average cost curve would drop, and we would actually have lower power, or lower prices. Okay? So those are your three options. I'm not saying any of them are better than the other, but I'm just saying these are the three options. And the one that tends to be the norm is going to be the last one. The people setting prices where they equal average cost. All right, so just take a quick look at the I guess it's quiz 6 or whatever, quiz 7 or quiz 8. I just gave you these additional questions. But let's look at question number 6, 7, 8. We'll look at some of the ones that we didn't